L'Association de l'industrie touristique du Canada travaille fort pour offrir à ses membres et l'industrie les outils et les moyens pour faire croître leurs entreprises. The Tourism Industry Association of Canada is working hard to provide its members and industry with the tools and opportunities they need to grow their businesses. With support from the Government of Canada's Canadian Experiences Fund, TIAC has launched Elevating Canadian Experiences. This program is a series of practical workshops that build capacity and support for tourism businesses in the culinary sector, for the shoulder winter seasons, and for creating welcoming experiences for LGBT+ visitors. It's all about helping tourism operators attract travelers to new destinations and experiences, and it's one more way that TIAC is working to rebuild our visitor economy. Powered by TIAC, Elevating Canadian Experiences is pleased to present the next session. Propulsé par l'AITC, le programme Enrichir l'expérience canadienne est heureux de présenter la séance suivante.
Good morning. My name is Daryl Sherman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the CGLCC, which is Canada's LGBT+ Chamber of Commerce. So thank you to TIAC for inviting me to speak with you this morning, and to you all for being here with me. So I'm just going to share my screen. And so this morning I'm going to speak to you about navigating LGBT+ diversity and inclusion in the tourism industry. So in the next 25 minutes or so, what I want to do is first of all, give an introduction and overview of the LGBT+ travel market. I want to talk to you about the programming that we built over the past year and a half and that we're delivering across the country to support Canada's tourism industry become market ready for the LGBT+ traveler. And then just mention how you can get involved and start reaching out to the LGBT market. So I'm going to try to leave about 5 minutes at the end for Q&A. So please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat as we go along, and hopefully we'll try to get to them before the end. So let me first, as we get started, let me first give you a little bit of an overview of who we are at the CGLCC. So we launched the Chamber back in 2003, and our mission then, and really continues to be, to support the economic empowerment of the LGBT community. You know, so what we're doing is working to support Canada's LGBT+ entrepreneurs and businesses to grow and succeed, and ultimately lead to hopefully an inclusive economy. We conducted our first national landscape study last year and found that there are 28,000 LGBT-owned businesses across the country, generating an impact, economic impact of over $22 billion. And I believe that that's underestimated. I know that's underestimated. From the same research, we know that LGBT+ entrepreneurs are hesitant to self-identify for fear of discrimination and loss of business. And the same can be spoken about LGBT individuals in general. So, we work to support those 28,000 businesses and the tens of thousands of others in being the best that they can be. And we do that with the support of our corporate and our government partners, along with our network of regional and affiliated LGBT chambers of commerce and businesses associations that are really helping to deliver our programming. And so really just quickly here, I want to highlight some of our programming to give you a sense of kind of what we do. One of our core programs is supplier diversity, which is where we're working with corporations and governments to help diversify their supply chains. We know that diverse-owned businesses and LGBT specifically are underrepresented in public and corporate procurement. And so we're working to connect LGBT-owned businesses with corporate and government partners to ensure that LGBT businesses have equal access to procurement opportunities. Our youth program, this is really about supporting our young LGBT entrepreneurs that are looking to either start or grow a business. We provide them with a mentor that they can work with and help them navigate some of the challenges that they face along the way. And actually, I'm really happy that this year we work to ensure that some of the youth that are participating in the program are actually focused on building tourism-based businesses. And my personal goal is to really help to make sure that we grow those numbers of youth with tourism-focused businesses in the future. Our third program is our global program, and this is where we're working to support our LGBT plus businesses access the global market. You know, we do this in partnership with Global Affairs Canada and EDC, and a lot of it is done around creating opportunities through LGBT trade missions. And of course, our final and fourth program is our tourism initiative. And this is really where we're focused on helping to create an inclusive tourism industry and working to help Canada grow its tourism receipts through the LGBT travel market. And obviously this is going to be where I'm focusing on this morning here. So I guess let's jump into this and kind of delve a little bit into the LGBT travel market and give you a little bit better understanding of why you should be looking at this, and I guess why you're here this morning. So, you know, I want to cover, first of all, a few things that we know about the market. So earlier this year, we conducted a national study on the travel habits and motivators of the Canadian LGBT plus traveler. You know, so this builds on about 3 or 4 previous national Canadian studies that have been conducted over the several years. And we found that, you know, the data that came out of this actually does align with those previous studies, and as well as it aligns with some of the US data that's been coming out. So, you know, we're very confident in the results that came from this study. And one of the first things that I think is worth noting here for you this morning is that the Canadian traveler is interested in traveling within Canada. And I think that's good news. I think we're all happy to hear that. You know, we found that over 90% had indicated that they intend to travel to Canadian destinations in 2020. Now, of course, I should mention that we were in field with this national study just at the start of COVID. So I think it was March, actually, just the start of March when we were in field. So, you know, some of those the results may have been a bit higher, or might have seen a little bit higher spike in that. But I think it's, at the end of the day, it's still consistent with what we've seen before, is that LGBT Canadians do have an interest in traveling across Canada. And if we look at internationally, we also know that Canada resonates very strongly with LGBT travelers and has ranked actually #1 travel destination by various sources over the years. And so, you know, I think that that's an important aspect, you know, the fact that there is interest in traveling in Canada, that is important to keep in mind as we go through what we're doing here. We also know that the LGBT travel market has the ability to travel. You know, we found that 91% of Canadian LGBT plus travelers have passports. So, you know, that's higher than the general population. And then if we look, for comparison's sakes, if we look south of the border, we know that some of the data that's come from our counterparts in the US, from a research study that they did a couple of years ago, show that 77% of LGBT US travelers had passports, compared to just, I think it's in the US, it's sitting around 42 or 43% of the general population. So again, the market has the ability to travel, and we've seen in the US that they're using it. So over 50% of them have actually used their passport to travel to another country. We also know that the LGBT market has greater disposable income. And that's not to say that they have a higher household income, but rather that they have greater discretionary income. And so, you know, we can largely attribute that to the fact that there is greater propensity for them to have dual income and no kids. And what we found is that they actually spend that money on travel, which is, again, a good thing. We found that in our study this year that the Canadian LGBT traveler spends $12 billion Canadian annually on travel. We know that they outspend their mainstream travel counterparts by 7 times the average trip expense. And so on average, we found that they're spending around just over $1,800 per trip. So that's quite significant when we look at the expenditure per trip. And then I think if we just quickly look at the, you know, globally spend, you know, in North America, we're looking at LGBT travelers are spending over $70 billion US, and globally over $200 billion US. So again, we know this is a market that has a disposable income, and they're actively spending it on travel. So research has also shown that the LGBT consumers are aware of companies that support and in fact don't support them. You know, the LGBT market is in general extremely loyal to those companies and businesses that support, but the key really is that you need to earn their trust and show the commitment to them. And this includes things like, you know, actively supporting the community through partnerships, participating in events, active engagement, you know, things like that. And we found that generally those that have made a longer sustained support do fare better in recognition and frequency. So again, probably not a big surprise there. When we started to look at the priorities of LGBT plus travelers in Canada and why they choose one destination over another, we found that one of the main reasons was safety. You know, so 89% in fact identified safety as an important factor when making travel decisions. And this is actually, we've seen this holding true over the past several years. So safety is a very important factor. And it's not just the physical well-being, but in feeling welcomed, you know, providing them a space to be who they are and not really having to fear about having to hide themselves. You know, the LGBT traveler really expects that the destinations and businesses that they're visiting are in fact providing that level of comfort and well-being. So, you know, as a business or as a destination looking to reach this market and being successful, you need to ensure that you are meeting the expectation or offering them you know, that safe space that they're looking for. So this could mean things like ensuring your destination recognizes gender and sexual diversity, has meaningful practices in place, and not just having them in place, but actually you know, following them. And you know, providing that positive experience for the guests. So, you know, this really is a big piece of the market readiness programming that we're working on and delivering. So, and finally, you know, what we've also found from our research is that we know that the LGBT traveler is generally amongst the first travel segment to rebound after high impact shocks to the industry. So, you know, we saw this after 9/11, we saw this after SARS, and we're expecting this to see this after COVID as well. So, you know, as we look towards recovery now, this market is one that has proven to be really worth going after. So the last 2 points that I touched on, you know, safety and the resiliency side, really emphasize why we should be looking at this market right now. But at the same time, knowing that we need to ensure that we are delivering on the needs and experiences and expectations that they're looking for. We all need to be looking at ways, at opportunities to recover. And I personally truly believe that the LGBT travel market provides a really great opportunity for many Canadian businesses and destinations right now. And I think that we're really well positioned, you know, with Canada being recognized as a leader in diversity, as mentioned earlier, you know, we're certainly on the global landscape. So in some respect, the framework is already there. You know, but what I think we got to keep in mind, that doesn't mean that all we need to do is just slap a rainbow flag on our front door or on our website and expect them to roll in. You know, we need to ensure that our businesses, our communities, our employees are ready to actively welcome them. So CGLCC, in partnership with Tourism HR Canada, has created a number of training and educational tools to support Canada's tourism industry in these efforts. And so I want to kind of go over that with you. So the National LGBT Tourism Development was developed with a goal to deliver responsive and really sustainable LGBT tourism market ready program. We got funding, as you heard in the opening video, through the support of the Canadian Experience Fund from ISED, Innovation, Science and Economic Development. This program aims to get destinations ready for the LGBT traveler. We've spent the past 13 months working on this, and we're heading into our final, I guess it's heading into the final 5 months now of the project. And I'm really excited about what we've been able to accomplish, but also still what lies ahead. So on the screen here, you can see some of the things that we've been building out and that we're hoping to achieve. Ultimately, we'll have a series of tools, resources, training and education that we'll have delivered to support Canada's tourism industry, really coast to coast to coast, and really helping them all be ready to serve this market. So, some of the things that we're doing here is actually impressive to me. In the span of just a few months, we'll have conducted a series of over 40 workshops and over 30 plus market ready presentations, and worked with more than a dozen communities across the country. And there'll be more than 1,000 participants across the country getting ready to welcome LGBT plus travelers. So I want to take a few minutes here and go into some of those specific activities in detail. So one of the most important factors in becoming LGBT market ready is ensuring that the traveler feels welcome. We talked about that. I talked about that earlier. So creating that safe place for them is really critical. And that's really where the focus of our training program is. Businesses need to make sure that their workplace is an inclusive environment, not only for LGBT customers, but also for their employees as well. We have to remember that people aren't always out and aren't visible. So we don't necessarily know the impact of what we're saying or what we're doing. And that's why this training is so important. Apologies for a little bit of feedback. I think we're still getting some feedback, Grant. Okay, is that good? How are we now? Okay, thanks, Ryan. Apologies for that. So, what we've been able to do is develop this training program, and it's a half-day training workshop, and it's facilitated by one of our CGLCC trainers, and teaches ultimately the basics of LGBT inclusive vocabulary, space, and workplace. So some of the things that are covered off in the training, we talk about terms and definitions as it relates to the community. We talk about homophobia and transphobia and heterosexism in the workplace, how to create a safe space, and then obviously, we're talking about creating strategies to interact with LGBT customers and visitors. What we've also done is part of this training is we've built in an introductory self-paced online course, which allows participants to have a good foundation going into the facilitated workshop, and then really providing a much more, I guess, rich and robust discussion with the trainer and the other participants in the session. So at the end of the day, the goal here is to arm the participants with action items that they can use to, I guess, transform their workplace into an LGBT safe space, as I've talked about. And I should mention that as part of this program with the federal government, we've been delivering this training across the country, and it is being done in both official languages. And we have several more training sessions that will be coming out over the course of the next few months, and I'll touch on that in a few minutes here. The next thing I wanted to mention is, I can just switch the screen here. There we go. Is our market seminar. And this is really around providing destinations and tourism businesses with an overview of the LGBT travel market. So really kind of taking that first piece that I talked about here with you this morning, and giving participants much more insight and information about the market, their travel preferences, their habits, and so on. So one of the things that we've identified and built out based on that research that I talked about are LGBT personas, if you will. really to help participants build an effective marketing strategy catered to those specific traveler types. Because I should mention that, you know, throughout here I've been talking about the LGBT travel market or traveler as kind of one mass market, but clearly we need to look at, when we start to look at this, targeting this market, we need to understand that there are differences obviously amongst a larger group. So, you know, these personas help us to be able to better understand what the individual markets perhaps within the larger LGBT community are looking for. And just quickly, the seminars are 2 hours, and they do share, you know, some best practice research that we did, and we did this globally, looking at some of the best practices. So when we pulled a lot of that, and we'll be sharing that, and we share that in these seminars as well. The third element that I want to talk to you about is our audit program, and this is where, you know, we are ultimately working to prepare destinations across the country to fully tap into this market. So these audits are really designed to assess a destination's strengths and potential areas for improvement as they look to become market ready for the traveler. We work with an amazing group of LGBT tourism specialists who conduct really deep dives into a destination and work with those destinations to make sure that they're best positioned to begin actively working and welcoming this market. A key part of this is really to conduct consultation sessions and fully engage the community and destination stakeholders to look at some of the past and present efforts that they're doing. And I think that, you know, when I say engaging the community, I'm talking the broader community, not just the LGBT community, but the entire community on a whole. So those consultation sessions and engagement is really, really key part of this audit. And then the audit also, you know, really looks at providing some of that other stuff that I talked about. So the critical market information, training. So it provides a really kind of comprehensive package for these destinations and those businesses within the destinations. You know, what the audit team is really doing is helping to, you know, kind of uncover some of those opportunities that the destination might be helpful for them to become market ready. So it could be something as simple as, you know, reimagining a product or experience already available within their destination, or, you know, it could be about helping to develop some strategic new partnership that would help them really be successful in their efforts. So at the end, you know, what we do is we do provide a final recommendation report that really kind of serves as that benchmark tool, that roadmap, I guess, if you will, for them to really continue to be able to build on their strategy, on their LGBT strategy. Right now, we're currently working with 13 different destinations across the country to conduct these audits. And again, these are also being done in both official languages. I want to highlight something that we're currently working on now, which is our accreditation program. I think it's a really important component of everything that we've been building up until now, and really brings it all together. The accreditation program, you know, will be a way for Canadian businesses to I guess showcase to the traveler that they've done their work and ultimately are market ready, and that they're able to meet the needs of the community. You know, at the end of the day, the practices that we are sharing through the workshops and our audit program that we've talked about will help them become will be achievable criteria in order for them to obtain this accreditation. You know, remember what I talked about earlier around the loyalty piece and how LGBT travelers support businesses that support them. And so this accreditation, I think, is really important for businesses to show travelers your commitment to ensuring that they feel safe and welcomed at your destination or your business. So again, we're working on this right now. We hope to have this launched in Q1 of 2021. So keep an eye out for that, and certainly more details to follow. So, you know, I've given you a really quick overview of the general market and why, as a tourism operator or destination, you should be looking at this. and I've covered off some of the resources that we provide in support of, with the support of the Canadian government and Tourism HR Canada. So now I think it's really up to you to decide what to do with that. And my first ask, I guess, is really to take a hard look at how you as a business or as a leader or as an employee can really work to make your company more inclusive, and not just for LGBT individuals, but for all diverse communities. You build and implement policies and practices that truly support diversity, inclusion, and equity in your workplace. We all know that this has been such an important topic, especially receiving a lot of conversation and dialogue over the past year. But I think, through your efforts, we can really help to ensure that we continue to be a country that is leading the way in ensuring that every single person is treated equally and has the same opportunities and access as everyone else. So I guess that's my first suggestion to you. And in a small way, we can help you with that through the great training that we built, which is now accessible to everyone thanks to the federal government's commitment to this issue. So, I'd encourage you to register for some of these upcoming training sessions. We have a list here of some of the upcoming training sessions taking place across the country. You can register for these on our website, and I'll end the slide or the presentation with our URL there, but cglcc.ca/tourism. The workshops are scheduled by region, as you can see here, and we do that in part to really help to bring the local communities together, to support each other, and to help to create a more inclusive region. I should also note, I think I failed to mention that, it's highlighted here, but our workshops are all provided free, again, with the support of the federal government's commitment to supporting and growing this market. So take advantage of that. And if any of these dates don't work, reach out to our team and we'll see what we can do to accommodate additional sessions. And then also just quickly, also on our website, you'll see, I didn't list them here, but you'll see our host of travel market information sessions that are starting next week, in fact. And I know that we have a lot coming up. So, take a look at those and get your region, get your businesses engaged and get them to find out a little bit more about the LGBT market and why it might make sense for them. And so finally, one last thing, I think I didn't talk about, a lot of the other resources and tools that we've built out, but we have a lot of great tools that we have built, again, with the support of the federal government here. And, so things that, talking about implementation of inclusive procurement practices, delivering inclusive events, the use of language, updated research. So there's a whole host of tools and resources that are going to be available. They're starting to be kind of rolled out, again, in both official languages. So, I encourage you, if, to take advantage of, those are available for all members for free. So sign up for a free membership and start taking advantage of some of the great tools that have been built out there for you. So I know that we have, I think, just a couple minutes left for some Q&A. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with me this morning. And again, I just really want to acknowledge the support of the federal government and our partners at Tourism HR Canada for the work that they're doing to help us to really build a truly inclusive and welcoming country for all travelers. So I will take some questions now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I think we have. So there's one question. So we have, do you provide audit programs for a single business specifically, or just as destination as a whole? So right now, what we're doing, the audit program is just for a destination as a whole. And a big piece of that is although, we want to make sure that we're working with the businesses to help make sure that they're ready. We find that for a destination to really attract the LGBT traveler, it needs to be a much broader than just a single business. And so if we can start with at the the destination level and get them to support and work towards being inclusive. And then as part of that, then certainly is the engagement and active participation of the businesses. So at this point, the audit program is just for destinations or regions. So unfortunately, I think we are now out of time. So again, I want to thank you all for being here with me this morning. I encourage you to, if you do have questions, reach out to us. Visit our website at cglcc.ca. We have a host of information around the tourism program on there, and you can sign up and register for any of the programming that is on there. So again, thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Merci de votre participation à cette causerie de l'AITC. Le congrès touristique virtuel de l'AITC de cette année est financé par le Fonds pour les expériences canadiennes, en partenariat avec le gouvernement du Canada. Thank you for joining us in this TIAC talk. This year's virtual TIAC Tourism Congress is funded through the Canadian Experiences Fund in partnership with the Government of Canada.